After his foray into US politics, most politicians are too scared to stand too close to Elon Musk. So why is it that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky just gave him one of Ukraine's highest honours, the Order of Freedom? If there was a ranking system for the most divisive people on the planet, Elon Musk would surely rank somewhere near the top. Whether you see him as the man who supercharged the electric vehicle industry or the man who built the ugliest pickup truck on earth, there is rarely middle ground and always very strong opinion at either end of that spectrum. But there is one thing about Musk that makes him very important to Zelensky. He owns the satellite internet network Starlink, and that is kind of a big deal in Ukraine fighting back against Russia's invasion. Starlink has become a critical tool for Ukraine's military operations, especially when it comes to guiding drones and ballistic missiles. Kyiv counts on satellite networks, connectivity and communication coordination on the battlefield while Russia is locked out of the same service in Ukraine. It's been a big help to Ukraine, and they want more help now from Musk. At the moment, Starlink does not operate over Russian territory. If Musk was to switch that back on, Ukraine could use it for more precise drone attacks, targeting Russia's military and energy infrastructure far from the front lines. It's something we want to talk more about with Doug Mattery, Director of Internet Analysis of Kentic, an internet monitoring company. Doug, it's great to get the chance to talk to you. We've laid out some of the case as to why Ukraine needs Musk. I feel like the more pertinent question might be, why does Musk need Ukraine? What does he get from a good relationship with Ukraine, do you think?
That's a good question. It's hard for me to get into his head. I think, at the outset of this conflict, when Russia invaded Ukraine, there was a kind of a worldwide response and sympathy to Ukraine. And he, I think, went along with that and donated a number of terminals and service to Ukraine that proved to be very critical to their war effort.
It's a cynical way of asking off the top, and I appreciate it's a tricky question from any distance, but it's a way of asking, why has Ukraine given Musk this award right now?
My area is not in analyzing the politics of it, which I think there could be some in this case. I might just mention that, for Starlink has been an interesting subplot in the conflict that's been going for 4.5 years now. It's initially was used to connect some disconnected towns due to last mile infrastructure damage due to airstrikes, but its main role has been as military command and control and drone communications, as you mentioned in your lead-in, and that's been critical. Now, the Russians, up until February this year, had started to use the same services, Starlink, to do the same things back against the Ukrainians. And at the request of the Ukrainian government, Starlink did disable any Starlink terminals that were in Ukraine proper that weren't on a whitelist directory that had been registered with the Ukrainian government. And as a result, from our perspective, and we have a lot of internet traffic data that we work with, we saw a substantial drop in traffic of probably a mix of both Ukrainians who had terminals that were not registered, as well as Russian military units that were making a lot of use out of these of the service that could no longer use it, and there were some tactical gains that Ukraine achieved in its aftermath.
Just to tie a bow around it, in terms of the official reason given by the Ukraine government, for those watching at home, as published on the presidential website of Ukraine, is the words of Ukraine were for outstanding personal contributions to the protection of human lives and freedom and to the development of relations between the peoples of Ukraine and the United States of America. One other relationship I'm interested in, Doug, as to whether you can add your voice to this, is the former Defence Minister Fedorov, fired by Zelensky. He was close to Musk. Do you buy the story that Musk getting this award is part of patching up that relationship? Do you know and do you understand Fedorov and Musk to be that close?
Maybe that's a motivation for it. I would think that there's probably a mix of politics as well as sincere gratitude. Setting the politics aside, it really has been a very important service that Ukraine has made use of in this in the conflict. In the first year, there was some notions that were around about the whole country was somehow stayed connected through Starlink, and that really was never true. Most of the country's internet service goes through fiber optic cables that run along the ground and head to the west. That has always been true. That will always be true. But the role of Starlink has been critical for the military effort and the war effort.
And that's inside of Ukraine. Do you have much feel for how much difference it would make to Ukraine's ability to hit targets inside of Russia or just communicate with their various weapons if Musk agrees to turn on Starlink over Russian territory? I mean, that they seem to be coping all right without it. But do you have a feel for how much difference that would make if that next step is taken by Musk and Ukraine?
Well, that would enable them to do really long-range drone bombings into Russia. And so my understanding is the pushback from Musk is that this is, he does not want to be a part of an escalation. He's kind of intertwined with this conflict no matter what, but that holds some water as far as like not wanting to be a party to making this a broader war, but it does also kind of raise the question around, you've got an individual that owns the service that has to be convinced of allowing the service to be used in for these particular military applications, and that's something quite unique that we haven't seen in recent decades.
So Musk's Starlink dominates the business of internet from space, and SpaceX dominates the business of getting all types of payloads into space, including satellites. 9 out of every 10 kilograms goes on SpaceX rockets into orbit. Russia, Doug, as we know, is one of the very few nations that can reliably get payloads into space, satellites as well. Can you tell us how close is Russia to bypassing this problem, this internet problem, by building their own network?
Yeah, the Starlink system. So Starlink wasn't the first company to do satellite-based internet service. It's been around for decades, but it really is a technologically superior in every way service than everything else that's been out there. How fast could the Russians replicate that? I mean, we're seeing this in different places. Europe wants to have their own version of Starlink. Taiwan wants to have their own version of Starlink. There's a lot of countries that want to have their own. They do have the advantage to be able to have their own launch capabilities, but there is a lot of sophistication. Just one thing being like the inter-satellite link, the routing of traffic between satellites in space is something only Starlink's ever achieved as far as satellite communications constellations, and it's a remarkable thing. I don't know how much faith to put in. Maybe that's years away, or maybe that's never going to happen. We have other competitors. OneWeb is out there. You've got Project Kuiper from Amazon trying to compete. Those are well established projects that have a lot of funding that have been at it for a long time, and they are still a long way behind it. So if someone's starting out now, that launch capability isn't going to help you with the technologies on board the satellites that would have to be recreated. I think they're a long way away from that.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question that I might have had to put the tinfoil hat on for, is that perhaps Musk might prefer Russia doesn't start building an alternative to Starlink, that he might be happy if Ukraine can keep hitting the Soyuz facilities with drones and missiles as they did last week. But as you see it, that Russian the build-out of an internet from space is still in its infancy, to say the least?
Yeah, I don't think Elon Musk is too worried about competition from a Russian version of Starlink, to put it bluntly.
Doug, great to get your input today, Director of Internet Analysis of Kentic, an internet monitoring company. Doug, it's been great to get the chance to talk. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Now it's time to get your thoughts. Do you think awarding Musk this medal will help Ukraine get what it wants, or is Russia too big a market for Musk to turn its back on? Let us know.